Hello and welcome to Odds Serie A 32nd match day. And funny enough, Danny, I expected the previous match day to be a good one for Milan, and they were the worst. Actually, now the gap is shorter with Napoli and Inter.
Well, at the end of the season, I don't know who's going to have more regrets for this title. Is it going to be Milan? Is it going to be Napoli? Is it going to be Inter? It's going to be Juventus, because in the end, they lost a game they didn't deserve to lose, and they're only 8 points behind Milan, although Allegri has already surrendered. Yes, it seems that no one wants to win this league. Let's see what this new match day brings to us.
When we are seeing Italian teams in Europe, they are disappointing us, but at least the level is very balanced in the Serie A, so it's exciting to analyze and to see which team is going to win this Scudetto. Comment with us the video. Of course, don't forget to press the like and subscribe, and now let's go on with the show. Also in the relegation battle, no team won, so things are exactly the same. And let's start on Saturday with the relegation battle. We have Empoli, Spezia. These two, Danny, are pretty much safe. Empoli, because they did a great first part of the season, because they are still not winning. They lost the derby against Fiorentina, whereas for Spezia was a 6-pointer against Venezia, was a massive game, and that goal is scored by Giassi. Danny, that's gold. They are almost safe. Good job for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Great job from Spezia, from Thiago Motta, managing the youngest team in Serie A, and they won in the last minute. You know, they always tend to score at home. They're not an easy team to play when they play allo Stadio Picco. Second consecutive clean sheet in Serie A for the first time in their history. If they win this one, they could even leapfrog Empoli and be all but safe. When they travel Spezia, they average 1 goal a game away, but they do have also the worst away defense from home, 37 goals conceded. So it won't be easy for Spezia going to an Empoli side. This is almost in desperation. No wins in 14 games for Empoli, so no wins obviously in the new year. They conceded 23 shots against Fiorentina. They were lucky only to lose 1-0. But despite this awful number, they still got 11 points above Venezia and Genoa. So at least Genoa comes back stronger in the last 7 games of the season. Empoli are saved despite awful numbers. Worse home defense for Empoli, 38 goal conceded. So it's the worst away defense against the worst home defense. Empoli also gonna miss Luperto, who's been sent off in Firenze when the game was 0-0, but they would have lost the game probably anyway. Maybe a win for Empoli is finally on the card, you know, after so long, and it pays quite well, 2-11, but be mindful because at home they've been very, very poor so far this season. So because none of these teams seem to be defending particularly well, you could go for the goals market, and you can go maybe for an over 1.5 goals in the second half. So two goals or more in the second half, and that pays 205.
Okay, most of the games we see a lot of goals in Empoli's fixtures. Then Inter Verona, you mentioned that Juve didn't deserve to lose the Derby d'Italia. Ugly victory for Inter, but they are back in track, back in with the Scudetto hopes. But this is a tough game, hosting Verona, only 1 defeat in the last 7 games. I'm not sure about the odds about Inter. The bookies really trust them, and I wouldn't trust Inter that much, to be honest.
It was the first. I mean, Juventus didn't deserve to win, to lose. Inter didn't deserve to win. They only won with 1 shot on goal, really, with the penalty that was retaken, etc. A very ugly win, for maybe the first ugly win of Inzaghi in this year. Yes, you do need ugly wins, but it was against a Juventus team that really had a lot of chances, especially in the second half. It was the first win in Turin in the last 10 years and the first away win of 2022. It was the return of Brozovic as well, and you might say that was the key for Inter. They miss him in a couple of games, and you can really see the difference when they build the play, but also the dirty work that he does. Yes, the odds for Inter, I think they are way too low. Yes, okay, they are the best home attack, but that was built most in the first part of the season. The third best home defense, but it is a team that I'm not sure is completely cured, is completely it look a little bit fatigued mentally and physically. Yes, of course, winning in Turin is a good medicine, but I don't know if they're completely cured. They will be without Lautaro Martinez suspended, and now big chance for Correa, who was very important in Inzaghi Lazio a few years ago, for a few years in a row. This is the man that Inzaghi wants to play perhaps a little bit closer to the midfield to help them build the play. Return for De Vrij at the center of defense, also very important defensively, but also to start the game, and maybe a chance for Gosens, the mystery Gosens. They bought him in January. He is barely played. Careful with Verona. Verona have more points than Inter in this calendar year, and also they scored more goals in 2022, same number of goals as Milan and Napoli overall. So a very strong attack for Scaligeri, led by Simeone. 16 goals for Simeone, 1-0 win against Genoa thanks to his goal, and he's the second best striker in the history of Verona. Luca Toni scored 20 goals almost 20 years ago. I think this could be a high scoring game. Both to score at San Siro, 192.
Luca Toni, I always remember the way he celebrated the goals. Really good odds. If someone wants to go for the underdog for Verona, 10 is really a value bet. And then on Saturday as well, we have Cagliari Juventus. Juventus out of the Scudetto race after that defeat. 5 points more than Roma. I guess is more than enough, and the Champions League shouldn't be in risk. But they are traveling to Sardinia, Dani, against Cagliari some weeks ago. It looked like they were going to take off. They were not going to suffer a lot. But again, thrashed by Udinese, 4 consecutive defeats, so they will have to suffer until the end of the season. How do you see this Cagliari Juve to bounce back after that defeat in the derby?
It is strange with Juventus, because when they don't deserve to win, they won, and they've done it so many times again with Allegri, back in the years, so-called cortomuso, winning by the nose, an analogy with the horse race. And then they deserve much more against Inter, because they were positive. They play with 3 strikers up front, with Morata, with Dybala, with Vlahovic. Vlahovic didn't have a great game. I think he stuffed Skriniar a lot, but the other players did well, especially Zaccaria. When he came onto the pitch, hit the post, was a real difference for Juventus, but then they lost. So they need to take, they need to come back with good spirits, because I think the 4th spot, even the 3rd maybe, for the Champions League qualification is definitely in their reach. The problem with Juventus this season, they never beaten a top team, and this is really has been the real issue in big games. Juventus have struggled to create chance, to impose their play. But last Sunday they did okay. 22 shots for Juventus against 5 of Inter, so it tells you that things are improving in the scoring department. First defeat in 16 games in Serie A. They will be without Morata, so there is an opportunity for Moise Kean to play, and I think Juventus expect much more from the Italian strikers. They also will be without De Sciglio, suspended, and a couple of injuries in midfield as well. They travel to Cagliari that seemed to have bounced back at the beginning of the year, but then 4 consecutive defeats, and one worse than the other, only scoring 1 goal in the last 4. They are just 1 point above Venezia. Venezia cannot buy a win or a draw, so Cagliari so far are okay, although Venezia's got a game in hand. Cagliari now got the 2nd worst defense behind Salernitana. Mazzarri need to steady the ship again. I think Juve are going to bounce back. I think Juve should be winning this one. The odds for Juve to win, they're not great, so you might want to go on the Asian handicap market, minus 0.75 for Juventus. So if Juventus win by 1 goal margin, 1-0, you win half your stake. If they draw, you lose half your stake.
And how is the atmosphere, Danny, around Juventus? Because the season is awful. After being knocked out of the Champions League 0-3, remember, against Villarreal, losing the derby against Inter, so their only hope is finish fourth in Serie A. They can win a title at least, the Coppa Italia, but the season is awful.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Juventus fans, they cannot wait for the season to finish, to go on the transfer market, to get new players in, to ship some of the players away, and basically restart. The season started so badly with those defeats against Empoli, with not picking up points, bad games as well, defeat at home to Sassuolo. Then it was difficult to recover. But a bit of the optimism has been dampened down in the last few days, of course.
Cagliari, they are looking to Venezia, of course, but also to Genoa, that right now it looks like the best team in the bottom part of the standings. Genoa-Lazio is our next game. For Genoa, if we look at the goals conceded, only 3 in the last 9. These are not numbers for a team that is gonna fight against relegation, but of course they are not scoring goals, and they are facing a Lazio team, Danny, back in European spots, beat Sassuolo. They are in good form, actually. 3 victories in the last 4. They only lost the derby recently.
Yeah, and Lazio did well against Sassuolo, created a lot of chances, helped by Milinkovic-Savic, 9th goal, 9 assists this season for the Serbian, so best ever season for him. But, it's about being consistent for Lazio, making sure that they perform week in, week out. That was the second time they won back-to-back home games so far this season. When they travel, they're not fully convincing for me. They all got a negative goal difference, but in the last 12 games since the Girone di Ritorno 2022, they would be challenging for a spot in the Champions League. So obviously they've been improving a lot, maybe help also for the fact they've been knocked out from Europa League, so Sarri had more time to train with the squad. Excluding the derby this season in 2022, they only lost away to Inter 2-1, so it was a tight game. So I think they will give Genoa some trouble. So Genoa first defeat for the new manager, Blessing, 1-0 at Verona, where they had chances. I think they could have nicked a goal with Destro in the end, but it's only 1 win, 7 draws and 1 defeat for Blessing in the last 9 games is not enough if they want to catch Cagliari. Only 4 goals scored for Genoa in the last 12. The home form is awful. Only 1 win. They will be third from bottom at home, and they got the worst home attack so far this season. Only 10 goals scored, but they are in desperate need for points. This is the game that will probably decide their fate, whether they stay in Serie A or not. I fancy a low scoring game, and I fancy a double chance actually for Genoa. I like the 1x, 198.
Okay, surprise here in your opinion, and the best game of this match day, in my opinion, Napoli. Fiorentina, Napoli, they are delivering against very good teams, like we saw in Bergamo against Atalanta, 1-3. This is a massive victory, 3 consecutive victories for Napoli after losing against Milan. So they won this Scudetto, and this is another tough one because their calendar is not easy after this one. Also, they are going to face Roma at home. So again, not easy, the calendar for Napoli, and Fiorentina still fighting for European spots, only 2 points away from Europe.
Both good teams, and for in different ways. I think they're having a very good season. Napoli, because he's able to deliver even when they're missing key players, as they were doing in Bergamo without Di Lorenzo, is going to be out for a while, without Osimhen, without Zambanghissa. Yet they found a convincing win. They were able to soak up the pressure from Atalanta, hit them on the counter, another set piece goal. Very well trained, very well drilled. This Napoli side, top of the league in the new year. Napoli, they will be second best defense as well, with only 8 goals conceded in the last 12. But they will be mindful of the game they played in Coppa Italia a few months ago, when Fiorentina went there and won 5-3 after extra time, knocking out Napoli. But that was Fiorentina still with Vlahovic. The good news for Napoli is that Osimhen is back, and is so important, especially against a Fiorentina side that will play a high line, so he will be able to run behind. They can throw the ball to him and stretch the play, still without Zambanghissa, still without Di Lorenzo. What happened to Fiorentina since Vlahovic have left? Well, the goals have dried up. They're scoring less goals, but at the same time, they're playing the same style of football. So again, another still playing on the 4-3-3, very propositive, possession based. So they need to be praised. But when you look at the numbers of Fiorentina, they only scored 15 goals in the last 12. In the previous 12 games, when Vlahovic was there, they scored 24 goals. So 9 more goals in the previous 12 than in the last 12. That tells you, yes, not having a terminal up there, considering also Piontek has been injured the last game. Yes, he's not helping. Away, Fiorentina, not great. Negative goal difference, -6, only 1 win in the last 6 away games, and they're going to miss an important player who is Lucas Torreira, really important holding midfielder, gets into the box a lot. 7 goals scored so far this season, scored at Milan, of course, against Inter as well. I think this could be a high scoring game, as we saw in the Coppa Italia. So you can go for a mini ACCA if you like, or play individual bets on these two, both to score, which pays 183, and over 2.5 goals plays 188. But if you put them together, that pays 344. So I would say go for a half a unit, because the margin of win is so high. So you can go 0.5 of a unit or whatever, or normally you bet, and you'll get good return for this Napoli Fiorentina high scoring game.
Okay, Teboga for him is crystal clear. Napoli to win in this pace 1.8. And then we have Sassuolo Atalanta. This is a killer. What? Yes. Check these odds for Sassuolo. 3.5 Sassuolo to win, a team that they are playing great with no pressure. 10 points in the last 4 home games, thrashing, for instance, Spezia, in their last home game. And we know, Danny, that Atalanta, they've been very poor in Serie A, especially at home, but they are focused in Europa League after getting that draw in Leipzig. They will put, I guess, all their efforts in the second leg, against Leipzig.
I didn't expect Atalanta to do so well against Leipzig and come out with a very, very good results. They were in control until Leipzig had a penalty saved by Musso, and then they scored 15 seconds later. In the end, Leipzig had also the chances to make the 2-1, but so did Atalanta. It was a very spectacular game, played toe-to-toe, two teams that play on the front foot. So we're seeing the best version of Atalanta at times, especially in Europe. I think they will be tired, though, Atalanta, after such a difficult game in Germany, and they got, of course, the return leg on Thursday. Very big chance to progress to the semi-finals of the Europa League and play one between Braga and Rangers. So, it could be an easier route to the final if you like. What happened with Atalanta so far this season? They create a lot, but they cannot capitalize. Their numbers in terms of goals scored are very poor compared to the two previous season. Is because they haven't had Zapata for a long time, but Zapata is back. He played the second half against Leipzig. Muriel scored as well, and we saw Atalanta creating good chances, also with a makeshift formation, because they had to play their own on the back three. Only scored 1 in the last 4 away games in Serie A, Atalanta, but you need to take into account how many chances they created against Leipzig. As I said, they will be without Deron suspended. They might be without Toloi and Jim City as well, injured, so a little bit of issues there at the back. And they play against Sassuolo, which is a team that gets the best when they play against top teams in Serie A. We saw them. They won against Milan, they won against Juventus, they won against Inter. So always performing against the top teams. Top scorers in 2022, Sassuolo, they scored 12 more goals than Atalanta in the last 12 games. They got 6 points, more than 6 points on Atalanta in the Girone di Ritorno. They are the 5th best attack, Sassuolo, with Verona. Obviously, Raspadori, Scamacca, Traoré, Berardi, all these players are probably going to leave in the summer. Sassuolo is going to be the richest team in Europe, if you like, but they've been able to develop them so well. The issue with Sassuolo, as always, they concede far too many goals. 7th worst defense of Serie A, 51 goals conceded, not great at home as well. High scoring game. This must be a high scoring game. Go for an over, I would say over 1.25 goals in the first half. That pays 201. So if there's only 1 goal in the first half, you lose half your stake. More than 1 goal, you win 201.
For Amir, it's both teams to score. The problem
Of
is that
course,
it pays only 1.5.
he
So in
doesn't
my
pay at
opinion,
all. Doesn't pay.
exactly. In my opinion, is a good strategy to put some money on Sassuolo. The odds are super good, and I guess Atalanta they will be focused in the Europa League. Also, decent odds if we trust Udinese playing actually very close to Udine in Venezia, Dani, because Venezia 5 consecutive defeats. They are not reacting. They are going straight to Serie B, but still only 3 points away from safety. So they are on time to wake up. The problem is that this Udinese is one of the best Udineses we've seen in the season so far, scoring a lot, even creating problems against Napoli in their last away game, managed to draw with Milan or Roma. So they are in good form. Actually, Udinese, the problem also is that away they are not delivering a lot this season, only 2 victories.
Yeah, that's true. It's the way form that is deserting a little bit, but they are playing with much more freedom since a couple of weeks. And you can tell because they've scored for 6 consecutive games. And this is the first time it happened since January 2020. Delofeu, Beto, Success, Pereira, who came back a few weeks ago. By the way, he's going to be missing this one. He's suspended, so it's a big miss for Udinese. Molina pushing forward a little bit more. Out of a sudden, Udinese seems a different team, easily saved. They are playing for nothing, but they look like they're enjoying playing. Once again, Beto, surprising, probably one of the best surprises of Serie A in double figures. In the last 20 years, only 2 Portuguese players have gone to double figures in Serie A. One, of course, was Cristiano Ronaldo. The other one was Rui Costa. So it's not a bad company to be in for debutant Beto. Udinese only lost 2 of the last 8. In the last 5 games, they are the second top scorer in Serie A. 10 goals scored in the last 5 games. So that's an average of 2 goals per game. Let's see how they cope without Pereira, though, because they struggled when the Argentina wasn't there. Venezia desperate. They only scored 2 in the last 5 points in the last 12 games. They conceded 21 goals in the new year, so second worst defense behind Empoli. Yes, of course, a team that spend most of the time defending rather than attacking, but this time around they cannot even find those breaks and get the goals. They conceded in average 2 goals per game at home. They need to go for it. If they don't win one and Cagliari picks up a point, salvation is almost impossible for them both to score. 190.
Udinese to win for Amir.
Could be.
Could be, and pays good, actually 2.2. Then in the Olimpico, Roma Salernitana, I guess Danny Mourinho is not going to Norway on holidays this summer. Another defeat against Bodo Glimt, who could have
They
told.
have to move to Roma Salernitana, Edu. But just waiting for you to come back. But Roma Salernitana, here we
I'm
go.
not
Is it? Here is
here.
it.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
Okay, yeah. Roma Salernitana. I was saying that Mourinho is not going on holidays to Norway this summer.
No,
Another defeat against Bodo Glimt. Luckily for them, this game comes in the middle of this tie because they have to prepare for the second leg. Salernitana, a Serie B team. So good for Roma to still win in the Serie A. And why not get closer to the top 4?
Tough game for Mourinho. I mean, he was welcomed by the snowballs that were thrown at them by the young kids, but also playing on the artificial pitch. They hate that. They said it so many times. Bodo Glimt, a bit lucky because they scored 2 goals with the 2 deflections. Were a bit lucky, but they put Roma to the sword. And bad news for Roma because they lost Mancini for an injury. So Mourinho is no one that makes a lot of changes to this formation. He will have to cope without him. Hopefully, they will recover for the return leg against Bodo Glimt. Won't be easy, but they are one of the best teams in Serie A at the moment. 10 games unbeaten for Roma. That was for the first time since 2016. They score in the last 7 away games for the first time since 2018. Roma, they won 1-0 at Genoa. And based on expected goals, I know that sometimes you need to take these things with a pinch of salt. They will have 15 more points on the table, Roma, compared to what they have. So they are doing the good stuff. They are producing the actions. Sometimes they're not being able to capitalize, but they could finish this season on a high and qualify for the next Europa League. In the last 7 games, Roma, by the way, they would be top of the league, and they play Salernitana, the worst away side, second worst defense and attack when they travel. Of course, they have not scored Salernitana in 15 league games so far this season. They were defeated 1-0 by Torino. Only one team has done worse in the top 5 league, which is my second team, is Norwich, unfortunately. 17 games without goals for Norwich, 15 for Salernitana. So, it's thereabout. Norwich are going down. Salernitana are going down, of course. Roma to win 2-0, 205.
Roma and over 2.5 for Tevago, Roma and under for Amir. What is pretty clear, of course, is that we have to find the good odds and Roma to win because they shouldn't fail against a team like Salernitana. And last game we have on Sunday, tricky one, Torino Milan. Perhaps actually when we see the kickoff of this game, Milan are no longer on top of the table after that draw against Bologna, completely drawn. And Torino arrived to this game after the victory against Salernitana and in a bad run of 8 winless games at home this season. They are a tough team to beat, actually, Danny. So perhaps we see trouble, for Pioli's men in Torino.
Well, it is a difficult moment for Milan because you think they did deserve to win against Bologna. They had 33 shots on goal, some of them on target. Skorupski made some great save, but they seem to lack the goal scorer. Leao scoring anymore, a bit inconsistent. Rebic look out of shape, a little bit down with the morale. They brought Ibrahimovic back in the end, had some chances as well. Giroud, not many chances in the first half. Milan are unbeaten in 2022, but it is true that at home against beatable team, they have struggled to score. They only scored 1 against Udinese, 1 against Sampdoria. They're not 1 against Cagliari away, 1 against Empoli. So, they just 1-0, 1-0, 1-0. Maybe it's not enough, but they got the best defense as well in the new year. Only 7 goals conceded. It could be the pressure that got them a little bit. They had a massive chance to make grounds on Juventus, for example, and to respond to Inter and Napoli wins, and they didn't. So crunching time for Milan, who normally much better playing away than playing at home. Last year was a very convincing win in Torino. Torino that have slowed down a lot in 2022, despite getting back Belotti from injuries. They got far too many, but they had new injuries they had to deal with, especially in midfield. I think the absence of Praet deprives them of a very dynamic midfielder as well. They won at Salernitana thanks to the first penalty they took this season. That was a negative record for them at home. They are mid-table, but they're winless in 4. However, against top teams, often they put a good performance at home. They drew with Inter, they drew with Lazio, they beat Fiorentina earlier in the season. This is going to be a good test for Milan, both to score, 198.
Santa is saying if Milan can get a point here, say goodbye to Scudetto. Well, this is having a lot of turns up and downs in the Scudetto.
You don't know, Santa. You don't know because everyone is missing chances. This is going to be the Serie A of their regrets at the end. Everyone will have some regrets.
Exactly. I guess no team will win the 7 or 8 games that are left. So still many points and many ups and downs. Who knows who is going to win the Scudetto? And the last game on Monday, we have another game. We can place our bets in this Bologna-Sampdoria. Not very appealing, I have to say. Not much on stake, but still Sampdoria with 29 points. They need to find the safety. They are still in danger. 4 defeats in the last 5 games. It's true that 7 points away from Venezia because this season the safety, Danny, is super cheap. In Serie A, this is a tough one. No? I guess we should expect a really low scoring game, especially seeing the last 5 games of Bologna. No? They don't score, they don't concede.
No, and against Milan, they had a better, I think, approach in the first half. They tried to hurt them. They tried to get Arnautovic to hold the ball with Barrow running behind. They were a bit more courageous. They pushed the line higher, but in the second half, they retracted. I mean, they could have conceded one goal. But Bologna have not scored in 5 of the last 6 home game, and they're winless since the end of December. Second worst attack in the last 12 games, for only 5 goals scored. So yeah, not great numbers for Bologna. Were saved by their keeper Milan. Sampdoria, when they travel, even worse, if you like, than Bologna home. They already lost 9 away games so far this season. The last one they won 2-0 at Venezia, but that was thanks to Venezia mistakes at the back, playing from the back and handing them 2 goals. 9 defeats in the last 12, 3 wins. So Giampaolo is doing better than other managers, of course, comparatively. But as you said, the salvation so far this season is going to be so cheap, probably 35 points, 34 points, that, yeah, you really don't need much to not finish in the bottom 3, and Sampdoria have enough quality to not finish in the bottom 3. Had some chances against Roma. Maybe they would have deserved the one goal. So the defeat 1-0 maybe was a little bit harsh. This is a tough one to judge. The draw is appealing, but also the first half draw, which would be my tip, I think could be a result. In this case, is pays 220.
A game, I guess, to skip watching because we expect not many goals. Amir is saying under 2.5 goals. If we go for under 2, under 2.5 is 1.8. If you are brave enough, even under 2, 2.54 right now. In Oddspedia, we have these odds. So I guess a low scoring game in the Dallara. Danny, before Easter, actually this season, they changed the schedule in Easter. We don't have all the games on Saturday, which was a tradition in Italian football, but we will analyze this the following week. Now, the only thing left is your ACCA.
5 games as always, so let's give Empoli a chance, double chance in this case. 1x against Spezia. Inter Verona over 2.5 goals. Juventus to go to Cagliari and pick up the 3 points. Sassuolo Atalanta over 2.5 goals. Roma to win the first half against Salernitana home, as you can see on the screen. So Empoli 1x over 2.5 goals. Inter Verona, Juventus win over 2.5 goals. Sassuolo Atalanta, Roma to win the first half against Salernitana. The total odds are 10-4.
Okay, how the hell Roma lost against Bodo Glimt? Ankur is asking himself.
But I mean, it's not the first time. It's not the first time, Ankur.
Exactly.
Bodo Glimt is a very dangerous team. Very physical. They run a lot. Quick movements, quite technical, strong. The 2 goals were lucky, though.
Amir is saying at least they didn't lose, no? 6-1 as in the group stage. Well, we will see what is going to happen in the Olimpico. Roma, Bodo Glimt next Thursday, 2 Italian teams in Europe the following week, but still we can place our bets in Serie A thanks to your tips. Danny, thank you. Thanks everyone for watching and see you next week. Bye-bye. Arrivederci.
Ciao. Arrivederci.